A procession of passionate followers numbering in the tens of thousands making the trek to Tiger Stadium. One group of Tiger fans call Auburn home. Their Tigers answer to the call of War Eagle. The other sect of Tiger zealots call the Bayou home. Their territorial passion stirred by the prospect of another conquest. Which of these Tigers proves its predatorial prowess? And which of these Tigers end up vanquished, reduced to Tiger bait tonight? That's the question that begs. Welcome to this presentation of the SEC on ESPN. Tiger Stadium sold out, over 92,000 strong. That's the backdrop tonight for the Auburn Tigers and the LSU Tigers. LSU coming into this game ranked number 9, and it's a possibility that they still have so much to play for. Let's take a look at the standings in the SEC. The West, first of all, Alabama narrowly escaping just moments ago against Tennessee. LSU coming in at 3-1, Auburn at 2-2. Meanwhile, in the SEC's Eastern Division, Florida a couple of games up on Georgia right now with the leg up on the division title in the East. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davey. Let's take a look at the headlines. First of all, for Auburn, Bob, it has been a streaky season for them.
Well, Mark, 2 weeks ago, Auburn was 5-0, ranked number 17 in the country and drawing national attention. Now they've lost 2 straight SEC games. This is a must-win for the Tigers to get back on track.
Meanwhile, the other Tigers, led by Les Miles, they're saying, hey, what about us? What about us?
Yeah, Mark, I think most people around the country think that Alabama and Florida are locked to play in the SEC championship game in Atlanta. Not here in Baton Rouge. I mean, LSU knows they can play themselves into the SEC championship game, potentially the BCS championship game, if they can just win out. I mean, they control their own fate. It all starts tonight for Les Miles. It's like a sudden death playoff. They have to be inspired by the problems Alabama had today against Tennessee.
And Les Miles reminding his team that they are so very close. They are just increments away from being right there with Florida. He wants his team to remember the disappointment of a couple of weeks ago right here at Tiger Stadium when they lost to the Gators 13-3. He wants them to use that as a motivating factor to get better and to not look ahead. Meanwhile, on the other side of the field, Gene Chizik said that it's never as bad or as good as it seems. First of all, it was a 5-game winning streak, and then now they're in the midst of trying to snap a 2-game losing streak.
Mark, there are 22 new head coaches in college football this year. Only Chip Kelly at Oregon has a better record than Gene Chizik. So even though they've lost 2 straight, Auburn off to a really good start under a new first-year head coach.
This team trying to forget about what happened a season ago when they lost 6 of their last 7. Chizik really intent on not letting that happen again. It is a very festive atmosphere, as you would imagine, here at what they affectionately call Death Valley. Sold out, over 92,000. Bob, this is a real intimidating scene for visiting teams, isn't it?
Not only is LSU's football team rested, coming off an open date, but this 90-some thousand in this stadium's rested too. This place will be rocking tonight. And what a beautiful day. Not an ounce of humidity in the air in Baton Rouge, and that is very unusual.
Bob, LSU winning the toss and deferring to the second half. Auburn will receive. Ariel Fannin, number 27, back deep, along with running back Ben Tate. You mentioned and alluded to the weather a few moments ago. 64 degrees, low humidity. Perfect conditions for college football. Tate stopped up at the 26-yard line. That's where Chris Todd will take the reins of this Auburn offense. Chris Todd had some issues last week, passing for a mere 80 yards in their loss against Kentucky. Pretty good numbers on the season, though, completing about 56% of his passes, 12 touchdowns versus just 2 interceptions. And check out the rest of the Auburn Tiger starters at the top of your screen. This is a high-tempo, fast-paced offense. They'll try and get off as many as 80-plus plays in the game. Todd runs it and is brought down after a gain of about 3 on the play. Kelvin Shepherd making the stop on the play for the Tigers.
You mentioned no huddle, Mark. There's a lot of no huddle teams in this country, but very few run it as fast a tempo as Auburn. I mean, they get up there and get that football snapped now.
2nd and 7 from the 28. Todd under some heat. He's got a nice alley ahead of him. Todd lunging for the first down. He's close to it. Kelvin Shepherd running him out of bounds as we take a look at tonight's impact players, brought to you by Liberty Mutual.
Well, Auburn is a run and play action offense, and the key is Ben Tate. He's physical, gains the tough yards. They have to run the football. Cody Burns listed as a wide receiver, but biggest role may be wildcat quarterback. He's been fighting some injuries. Auburn's been struggling on defense. This guy right here is their best player, and they need leadership from Antonio Coleman.
And as you mentioned, Bob, Cody Burns, he comes into the game in their wildcat formation. Out of the shotgun. Burns is going to run it and gets the first down out near the 40-yard line. He picked up 4 on the play. And one of the questions about Auburn coming into the season, not just this game, was who would win that starting quarterback job? Well, it's clear cut that Chris Todd is the winner. He started every game so far this season, unlike last year when Cody Burns started 7 of the games. 1st down and 10. Todd hands it off to Ben Tate. And Tate with a gain of about 9. Tate coming off a productive week last week against Kentucky at 134 yards.
Averages 122 yards a game, Ben Tate. I mean, Mark, and he gets those tough yards. He is a physical running back. I think the key to this Auburn offense.
Cody Burns back in the ball game. Looking to throw it this time. Incomplete, intended for Mario Fannin.
And you see the reason why Cody Burns did not win that quarterback job, Mark. Inconsistency in accuracy throwing the football, but he is still a weapon back there as a wildcat quarterback. Sets up a 3rd and short here for Auburn.
And Chris Todd comes back into the ball game. Boy, they don't waste much time up at the line of scrimmage, but this time Ben Tate going to be stopped up short of the first down. A good surge by that Tiger front 4.
Mark, one of the drawbacks of going on a quick count like that, you don't check the play. So sometimes you run into a very bad front. You just kind of roll the dice.
Gus Malzahn right there on your screen, the offensive coordinator for the Auburn Tigers. First season on the JOB on the Plains. And they're going to go for it on 4th down. Burns back in the ball game. They're 3 of 10 on 4th down situations this year. An early test for the LSU defense. Wow. And they're going to blow it dead. There was some motion up front. And it appears as if LSU jumped offside.
Yeah, Mark, Josh Downs, number 77, looked like he lined up offsides initially, but then clearly jumped.
Before the snap, false start.
Ooh.
Number 75 on the offense. And for 5 yards from the previous start. 4th down.
This one goes the other way against the other Tigers, Auburn.
Say, let's take a look at this. Watch. Man. There was a little flinch there, but it almost looked to me like Josh Downs was across the neutral zone and brought that flinch on by the Auburn offensive line.
Going to punt it away. Chad Jones back deep, makes the fair catch at the 17-yard line. Well, after that 40-yard punt, Jordan Jefferson will start the offense for the LSU Tigers. Here's a kid that just turned 19 years old at the beginning of the season when we saw him several weeks ago out in Seattle in that victory against the University of Washington. He's thrown 7 touchdowns against just 3 interceptions on the season, but he's been the focus of a lot of the talk, Bob, about LSU's ineffective offense so far, last in the SEC.
No question, Mark. I mean, it's his first season going through the entire season as a starting quarterback.
On 1st down and 10, they hand it off to Charles Scott. And Scott with a nice gain out to the 25-yard line. Thorpe making the stop, but Scott got 8. Charles Scott is trying to pick up the pace offensively. His numbers off from a season ago.
Yeah, Russell Shepard, the highly touted freshman, now in at running back, Mark. This is the guy everybody's been waiting to see if you're an LSU fan.
That wild tiger formation that they have. And Russell Shepard takes the handoff. And he's close to the 1st down and got a yard on the play. And let's take a look at tonight's impact players, brought to you by Liberty Mutual.
Well, LSU has to get their offense going. The key to me, Charles Scott, only averaging 55 yards a game, Mark, but he had 132 last year against Auburn. They want to throw the football down the field, take some shots. That's what they worked on the open date. Brandon LaFell, their top receiver. And then on defense, I love this guy right here. Patrick Peterson, a big physical corner, is having a great season.
Got a flag on the play down on the field.
Prior to the snap, illegal substitution on the offense. Broke the huddle with 12 players, number 80. 5 yards from the previous spot. Still 3rd down.
Mark, one thing you see, and this conversation's been had a lot here in Louisiana about LSU, when you have a lot of weapons and you try to get them all in the game, sometimes that causes continuity problems. You take the first carry of the game, Charles Scott looked like he was shot out of a missile. All of a sudden, he's on the sidelines, and the freshman, Russell Shepard, comes in the game. You'd like to see Charles Scott just establish that running game, give him a few carries in a row.
Trying to try and spread it around and deal with the consequences. Jefferson, wide open. Keelan Williams with a 1st down and a lot more. Keelan Williams gives LSU a 20-yard gain in its first down. One of the issues with quarterback Jordan Jefferson is that he's been a little bit hesitant, the coaches say, in pulling the trigger.
Well, Auburn made it easy for him that time, Mark, because they turned Keelan Williams loose out of the background. But you're exactly right. He tries to be perfect. As a result, he takes some sacks by holding on to that football too long.
1st down and 10, out to the 42. Completes another pass, juggled first, but caught by Tolliver. And Tolliver giving you some good run after the catch. Gets another LSU 1st down, picking up 12. Tolliver, the 2nd leading receiver on that LSU offense.
Well, something I noticed, fresh legs by LSU. They look really quick to me coming off that open date, Mark. I mean, they look right now like they have a little different gear than Auburn's playing with.
They talked amongst themselves as players about turning up the heat a little bit, improving their performance. 1st down and 10. They've had a long time to think about that loss to Florida. Jefferson going up top. Incomplete, and there's a flag on the play. Nico Thorpe was working and defending against Terrence Tolliver, and their legs appeared to get caught up with each other.
Mark, Nico Thorpe in coverage out here on Terrence Tolliver. Watch him try to undercut, go for the interception. As he does, his left hand looks like it goes on the back of that jersey right there.
Pass interference on the defense. Number 15. That penalty is 15 yards from the previous spot.
Yeah, it's against Thorpe.
1st down.
He was in good shape, Mark. He had his eyes, his vision on the football. He undercut the route. He just got tangled up for really no apparent reason right there.
Bob Les Miles told us that they went to work Tuesday, Wednesday, did some hard scrimmaging on Thursday during the off week. Their fresh legs really seem to be making an early difference.
The other thing I see, that freshman now in at quarterback. And what do you call this formation? The Tiger
Wild
Cat?
Tiger.
Wild Tiger formation.
Shepard keeps it himself. And nowhere to go this time. Brought down back at the 34-yard line. He faked the handoff to Holiday, and Walter McFadden came in to make the stop, and it's a 3-yard loss for LSU.
Mark, again, not to belabor this point, but early in the football game, now you have the freshman Russell Shepard at quarterback. They're really trying to get him the football. Do they need to really get him the football? Just stay in rhythm right now. You're on fire if you're LSU.
Jefferson back in the ball game. Jefferson working out of the shotgun on an empty formation. Slings it complete, and now it's ruled incomplete. Terrence Tolliver almost came up with it. Instead, it's going to be 3rd down and about 13 to go. Oh, they've showed the entire box of tricks already here on the opening drive, partner. Huh?
Well, you talk about an offense, number 112 total offense, last in the Southeast Conference total yards coming off an open date. This is a good display, Mark, but it comes down now to 3rd and 13, trying to convert.
Got to get just inside the 21 for the 1st down. Jefferson throws it again, and it's caught by LaFell. And a flag. No, it's knocked loose. Check that. But there's a flag.
Yeah, we're going to get Zach Etheridge using the helmet as a weapon, Mark, after the ball was incomplete. And penalties against Auburn this season have killed the Tigers.
After the play was over, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, contact with the defensive receiver, number 4 on the defense.
That's one of the points of emphasis this year.
Yeah, Mark, we're going to see it again. Zach Etheridge from the safety position. See him launch right there? He launched, used that helmet as a weapon. And keep this in mind, Auburn had 8 penalties in the 4th quarter against Kentucky. They've had 18 penalties in their last 2 games, number 75 in the NCAA. Penalties kill this football team. It killed them right there on 3rd down.
And it kept the defense on the field. 1st and 10 now from the 19. A little motion up front. Speaking of penalties,
talked to Gene Chizik about penalties this week. He said they're like turnovers sometimes. They come in bunches, and they continue to come in bunches.
Offsides on the defense, number 90, in the neutral zone, causing an offensive play on the move. The penalty is 5 yards from the previous spot. Still 1st down.
well, LSU getting some free passes here from Auburn on this opening drive. That's Auburn's 4th penalty already.
And yeah, go back to 8 in the 4th quarter against Kentucky. That's 12 in 2 quarters.
Out of the eye. Jefferson into the end zone. Touchdown, Tolliver. It's Tolliver's 3rd touchdown catch of the season, and LSU on the board. This is an offense that's been starved for success, and early indications, Bob Davies, say they've unbottled the genie here.
Mark, LSU always a great football team as far as team speed. Coming out of that open date, they are really a great team speed.
This is the way they throw down and get down here in the Bayou. No party like a Baton Rouge party, DJs included. They were spinning some stacks of wax, and that's how you put it down at LSU, Bob Davie. The Rhythm Nation in full effect, and hey, that offense was in rhythm with the aid of some penalties from Auburn.
You cut the humidity out of the air down here, people do crazy things, man.
A pretty good start for Jordan Jefferson, the sophomore quarterback, who's making just his 9th start for LSU. Tate and Fannin back deep for the Auburn Tigers. This is Fannin. And stopped up short of the 25-yard line. Chris Todd going to take his second offensive sequence at quarterback for Auburn. This Auburn offense, one of the highest scoring units in the entire country. But they sputtered last week in that loss against Kentucky with only one offensive touchdown. The other touchdown came by virtue of a blocked kick on special teams.
And really, Mark, unrealistic to think this Auburn offense could keep up the pace they had.
You think?
Early in the year when they were averaging over 500 yards. Not in this conference.
Lining up close to the ball, 1st down and 10 from the 24. Todd completes it, but nowhere to go. Well, 2 NFC East rivals clash this week on ESPN's Monday Night Football as Donovan McNabb and the Eagles take on Clinton Portis and Washington. It's ESPN's Monday Night Football, 8:30 Eastern. Coverage begins with Monday Night Countdown, served by Applebee's at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And speaking of former Auburn players, you'll see one in that game. Jason Campbell at quarterback for Washington. Cody Burns in the Wild Tiger, or Wildcat. Well, if they're both Tigers, do we call them both Wild Tiger offenses?
I'll say this. Good call, though, by Gus Malzahn. This LSU defense, like their offense, flying around in a little bit of misdirection. You know, get LSU going one way, come back the other way, because, Mark, right now, this LSU football team is fast.
Burns still in, takes the handoff. He's brought down right around the line of scrimmage. Maybe got one. Let's go to Wendy in the studio.
Mark, thank you very much. It's a Taco Bell studio update. Only one game this week, a matchup of teams ranked in the top 25 of the BCS, and it's this game, TCU and BYU, and that's Joseph Turner to put TCU on top by a touchdown.
All right, Wendy, and back here, it's going to be a 4th down and 1 to go. Cody Burns for Auburn shaken up on that last play.
Yeah, he's been battling injuries the last several weeks. He's had a quad injury, ankle injury. Second 3rd down stop in a row by the LSU defense, Mark, on 3rd and relatively short yardage.
Clinton Durston to punt now, standing at his own 18-yard line. Chad Jones standing on his own 33 for LSU.
Maybe the biggest punt returner in the country at about 235 pounds back there.
Literally. A low line drive punt. Takes an Auburn bounce all the way down to the 22-yard line. Cody Burns being tended to on the sidelines, which kind of puts a wrinkle in the offensive plan for Gene Chizik. We'll be right back after this.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Chevy and America's #1 appliance network, Sears. Life well spent.
You're looking at the old Capitol here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, an example of Gothic revival architecture. You know, Bob, Mark Twain once called it the ugliest building on the Mississippi.
That right there?
Yeah, he must have been an Auburn fan, I guess.
Yeah. It's a unique culture down here, Mark. You know, I lived down in New Orleans for 2 years. This is a unique place. And you're right. I mean, it is a festival atmosphere. These football games in Tiger Stadium are truly events now.
When you call it unique, more so it lends itself to the cultural experience here. I mean, it is very, very
a lot of
unconventional.
Flavor.
Yeah,
a lot of flavor in this state, and they love Tiger football.
There's Charles Scott on 1st down and 10, plowing his way over the 25. for 4 yards. Antoine Carter making the stop. You know, when LSU lost a couple of weeks ago against Florida, it snapped the streak of 32 consecutive wins at nighttime at Tiger Stadium. Some thought that would never end. And Bob, you did the game the last time they lost before.
Oh, you had to bring that up, huh? Yeah, you're right.
Well, they can't blame the jinx on you then,
no,
right?
well, they had 19 straight on ESPN, right?
Yep.
The last time they lost, I was here with Ron Franklin on a Monday night when they played Tennessee. They lost in overtime.
I'm not used to coming out of here with an L on Saturday night under the lights here at Tiger Stadium. 6:17 to go and a flag down on the field.
We got another major penalty.
This would be the 5th now against Auburn.
Automatic first down.
See a disconsolate looking head coach Gene Chizik.
That's a personal foul on Auburn.
Five penalties against the Auburn Tigers for a total of 54 yards already. And Jefferson completes another one to Tolliver. And Tolliver fighting for some extra yards out near midfield. At the 48, he picked up 8. Second down and about 2.
Terrence Tolliver averaged about 60 yards a game, 6'5", about 190 pounds, from Hempstead, Texas. Remember Harvey Williams that played here at LSU from Hempstead? That's his uncle.
Yep. Played at LSU, like you said, and member of the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL.
Yeah, still broke my heart because I was coaching at Texas A&M at the time, which is about 20 miles down the road from Hempstead. Thought he was going to be an Aggie.
Couldn't get him, huh? Tolliver. Or maybe Tolliver should take that up with his Uncle Harvey. Why he disappointed Bob Davie, a pickup of 11 yards. And here's what's happening now under the lights at Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Penalties, the predominant theme so far, 5 of them against Auburn for a total of 54 yards, helping LSU score its first touchdown. And coming up ahead on Davy Jones' locker, we'll talk about how festive it can be down here. And later on, the offensive and defensive team management of the respective sides. Charles Scott, the lone back. Quick 3-step drop. Pass complete to LaFell. Little receiver screen and down to the 35. A pickup of 5.
Look at Ted Roof over there, the defensive coordinator. Was the head coach at Duke. I think did an outstanding job there. Played at Georgia Tech. Last year was at Minnesota. I think really a good football coach. Even though this Auburn defense is struggling, Mark, they are a defense that doesn't have a lot of depth like you normally see at Auburn.
Pretty animated on the sidelines. Here's Charles Scott, and he is collared and brought down to the 37. Josh Bynes making the stop that time, middle linebacker. A loss of 2 on the play. 3rd down, about 7 to go for LSU.
I think you see the frustration if you're an LSU fan. You see the potential of this offense, Mark, but then you see mistakes like that that lead to negative plays.
Here they go on 3rd and about 6. Jefferson out of the pocket. And it's incomplete, intended for Scott, who made his way downfield. The one thing about Jordan Jefferson that you can say, Bob, is he's not hurting the team offensively by turning it over.
And Mark, you're exactly right. The reason they have won is defense, and they haven't turned the football over. They've only turned it over 5 times all year. And that was a good decision by Jordan Jefferson because the problems he's had has been taking sacks. You know, he takes about 3 sacks a game, but that time he at least scrambled out, threw the ball away to keep from trying a negative play.
Les Miles, Bob, as we all know, a little bit of a gambler. And they're going to spot it with Josh Jasper in to attempt a field goal. Should they attempt it, it'll be coming from about 54 yards, which would be a career long.
Let me say something else. So Josh Jasper.
The layup game on the defense, sideline interference.
Wow.
On the bench.
Mark,
that's their 6th penalty.
That's crazy, because I was just going to say Josh Jasper is a guy that pooch punts. I really think LSU would have pooch punted. They have now have made a decision to let Les Miles go ahead and kick the field goal. Josh Jasper has a long of 52 yards. 9 for 10 on the season. That's why LSU right now, they're going to go ahead and kick the field goal now, or go for it.
Yeah, it's only 4th and 1 now after the penalty. 6 penalties already against Auburn. It's 4th and 1, and LSU is going to call a timeout.
Mark, I really believe they were going to pooch punt that from the field goal position. They get the 5-yard delay a game. Now they're deciding whether to go for it on 4th down or go ahead and kick the field goal.
Bob, we chronicled the penalties against Auburn dating back to last week and their loss against Kentucky. That penalty statistic can be misleading sometimes, because sometimes some of the most successful teams have a lot of penalties against them. But in this case, how do you call it?
No, you hit the nail on the head. Some of the best teams in the country have the most penalties, but the kind that Auburn has been getting, go back to last week against Kentucky on the final drive of the game. They're going in to win the game. They have 2 false start penalties in a row on 3rd and 1. I mean, they're getting the silly penalties that keep you from winning, Mark.
Well, the place kicker, as you mentioned, Josh Jasper back on the field. .49 yards will be the distance.
Mark, he's only had 2 attempts over 40 yards, but he is 9 of 10 on the season overall.
They spot it down. And he pushed it just to the right. Had enough leg, too, and Auburn dodges a bullet.
And now it's time for this Auburn offense to get it going, because you need your Auburn defense to rest, Mark.
Well, Coach Roof is happy.
You need Coach Roof to rest a little bit, too.
Yeah, the roof isn't on fire, though. They're not going to let it burn. Back after this. Welcome back, everyone, to SEC on ESPN. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You know, sometimes, Bob Davie, the game is almost secondary. These people come to the stadium, get kind of close, set up shop, and throw a slab of meat on the grill. And I'll tell you one thing. 2 words you'll never hear in the same sentence is Mark Jones and vegetarian. Because you know what? Beef never did anything to me.
I think it was some kind of crocodile meat or something. Man, that was strange looking.
They know how to do it. They know how to do it in SEC country. 1st down and 10. Play fake. Todd completes it to Ben Tate. Let's go back to Wendy in the studio. Wendy?
Mark, thank you. TCU off to their best start since opening 10-0 in 2003. Off to a quick start tonight as well. Andy Dalton to Ed Wesley, 28 yards in the score. TCU on top by 2 touchdowns.
TCU off to a quick start there. Trying to join Boise State as a potential BCS buster. Ben Tate on the run that time. Picking up 3 yards, stopped by Raheem Alem.
One thing, let's go back to Auburn's defense over there, and Ted Roof trying to get some rest on that sidelines. Keep in mind this Auburn offense, 107th in the country, Mark, in time of possession. There's always a trade-off with everything you do. You're in this hurry-up tempo. That defense isn't on that bench very long. You better get a 1st down.
A little bit of heat dialed up against Todd. They get to him, and it's loose. LSU possession. Danny McCray cradles the loose ball. After the Harry Coleman hit, McCray gives LSU a 1st down in great field position.
Harry Coleman, who was a strong safety, started last year at strong safety. They moved him to outside linebacker. Mark, watch him come from the top, unblocked right there. Great effort, knocks the football out of it. Danny McCray comes up with the recovery. John Chavis, the defensive coordinator, 1st year from Tennessee. They've played outstanding defense all season long.
1st and 10 from the 16. Handed off to Charles Scott, running hard between the tackles. And Scott is stopped up at the 15-yard line. Coleman with a big hit right there on the sidelines. His nickname, they call him the Hitman. appropriately named so, especially when you look at that last play that he made.
Yeah, and very unselfish. Anytime you move a guy from strong safety, he's a secondary guy, to linebacker. That always takes an unselfish guy to get that done. Russell Shepard again in at quarterback, Mark.
See what they do here. Shepard working out of the shotgun. Holiday in motion. Shepard keeps it. And he's stuffed at the 15. No gain on the play. El Toro Freeman making the hit for the Tiger defense.
Mark, and to me, Gary Crowton is an excellent, one of the best offensive coordinators in all of college football for LSU. And I mean that sincerely. I know the dilemma he has because he has so many playmakers, but are you trying too hard? Do you have to get Russell Shepard those kind of snaps at quarterback right now? Jordan Jefferson's doing fine.
Shepard, a true freshman, still learning the nuances of the playbook. Keelan Williams in a tailback. Jefferson. He can do this too. He can run. And can he ever touchdown? Jefferson with his first rushing touchdown of the season, second of his career if it stands. They're going to review that last play, as all plays are available for review.
And I'll say this, if you're around the country tonight watching LSU and you're kind of thinking ahead, we're going to show this review again to see if Jordan Jefferson gets in. Let's take a look right here. I think he's in.
I don't think there's any question he was in.
But Mark, my point, we started off the telecast talking about a lot of people think Alabama and Florida, even though Alabama struggled today, are still penciled in for that SEC championship game, the winner going to the BCS championship. Early in this football game, the LSU Tigers, to me, are in that conversation big time now.
LSU plays Alabama in a couple of weeks at Alabama, but the good thing for Les Miles is that so far
the ruling on the field is confirmed. It is a touchdown.
So far, Bob, LSU not looking ahead to Alabama. They're squarely focused on the task at hand on the field. Jefferson and the touchdown stand.
But you have to say what a big advantage having the open date was after Florida. And so far, Les Miles did an incredible job with this football team during that open date because they have exploded tonight.
The extra point good, and LSU leading 14-0. Jordan Jefferson, the quarterback, very efficient, not only on that touchdown run, Bob Davie, but taking advantage of the turnover. And when you look at Jefferson, you've got Russell Shepard, who is a very, very highly recruited player by LSU,
right.
Nationally one of the top recruits in the country. How do you weigh off what you may have promised him during his recruitment versus playing time right now with Jefferson in the equation?
Yeah, and I don't think it's so much what you promised him in recruiting. I think that probably happens. I doubt that that happens at a place like LSU because you got a bunch of other playmakers you have to pass up the play. Now, maybe at some places where they don't have playmakers, as a coach, you go out on that limb and say, hey, look, you come, you're going to get this many touches as a true freshman. I don't think that's the case. I just think they know the explosiveness of this young player out of Houston. He's been sick. They've moved him around, wide receiver, running back. They just want to get him on the field because he's so explosive. But make no mistake, it does take away from the continuity of your offense and your coaching to do that. Now, as the season goes on, he'll be woven into the fabric of this LSU offense. But right now, I think it affects him a little bit.
There's a lot of talent on that sidelines, and LSU hoping that this is a situation perhaps like a couple of years ago when they lost against Kentucky, and then the offense really got into gear, and they went on their way to a national championship. This is Philip Pierre-Louis out to the 28-yard line. Let's go back to Wendy in the studio.
Mark, thanks. Florida at Mississippi State. Dan Mullen facing his former boss for the first time. Tim Tebow, he's done this before. On the carry will make it 10-3, and Tebow ties Herschel Walker's SEC record with that rushing touchdown. Number 49. His parents know it. Mark?
And, of course, Herschel Walker did it in less time, but surely that doesn't lessen the accomplishment by Tim Tebow. Cody Burns in a quarterback for Auburn, down 14-0 here with 1:03 to go. Good news for Auburn is that Burns is actually back on the field. He was shaken up a few moments ago. And he hands it off to McCallum, who took a big hit from Al Woods.
This is two teams playing at different speeds right now, Mark. Two football teams, totally different speeds on this football field. And don't diminish what an advantage LSU had after the Florida game to lick their wounds a little bit and get ready for this game tonight with the open date.
Todd completes it out to the 40-yard line to his tight end, Tommy Trott, for the first down. Pick up of 15 on the play.
Like you see Chris Todd going off the field. He struggled the last several weeks. 15 for 28 against Arkansas, 10 for 24 against Kentucky for 80 yards. So he has been struggling. You see Cody Burns in at quarterback.
Burns handed it off to Ben Tate. Tate out to the 44-yard line, picked up 3 on the play. Ben Tate was all SEC a season ago for the Auburn Tigers, one of the few bright spots in an otherwise very disappointing season. Tony Franklin was then the offensive coordinator. That is the new man on the JOB, Gus Malzahn. And that's the end of the first quarter of play. You're here under the lights. 92,000 watching. LSU leading 14-0 in a pivotal game for both LSU and Auburn. SEC West title hopes on the line. Welcome to this presentation of the SEC on ESPN. A look at one of the favorite spots here around Tiger Stadium. It's called Walk-Ons. Of course, last night there was about an hour wait, but the food is off the hook. Okay? And that's the way they do it down here. If you don't make it inside the stadium, you can always hit Walk-Ons. Or that other establishment down the road, we hit Clunkers, Bob, for some fantastic chicken wings. You know, Kim Belton and Jeff Evers, our producer and director, were under a little bit of heat making that call last night.
What are you trying to get, a bucket for free from the place or what?
25 will do. Spicy. Chris Todd in at quarterback to start the second quarter. Auburn down 14-0. It's 2nd and 6. Todd with a gaping hole and a first down into LSU territory at the 46-yard line. He picked up 9 on the play.
You know, that actually was a predetermined quarterback draw right there. At first, I thought it was just kind of a jailbreak where you turned LSU's lineman loose on a pass rush. But see the lineman coming downfield right there, number 57, Isom. That was a predetermined quarterback draw.
Todd with a fake. Have plenty of time. Oh, what a pickoff! Wow! Hawkins. Ball hawking. Wow. Incredible dexterity with his hands.
Well, Chris Hawkins, who was benched against Florida after Florida had that controversial touchdown pass of 24 yards. Watch this right here. Oh, wow. That is a great left-handed interception right there.
That was incredible. That's LSU's 9th straight game with an interception.
Well, and Chris Todd continues to struggle. Mark, he forced that into double coverage on 1st and 10. And another, I don't want to jump the gun, but Auburn penalty.
This LSU defense certainly doing its share of the work while the offense finds its way.
The defense, number 91.
You're right, Bob. Jake Ricks moving prematurely.
Still first down.
And the look on those Auburn fans' faces says it all. 18 total penalties in the last 2 games dating back to last week against Kentucky. Tonight, 7 and counting as we just begin the second quarter. LSU lining up out of the eye. Charles Scott, the deep back. The pass complete. Brendan LaFell, a.k.a. JoJo, making the catch. Wendy Nix, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Just a quick reminder what's going on around our family of networks. On ABC, Texas over Missouri by a touchdown. ESPN, Florida and Mississippi State. And over on ESPNU, South Carolina and Vanderbilt all tied up. Mark?
All right, thanks a lot, Wendy. A pickup of 11 on that last play. Jefferson throwing the ball with authority, completes another one to LaFell. Another first down at the 23-yard line. It was interesting, Bob. This team, LSU, they talked about it amongst themselves. Charles Scott leading the way, saying, hey, we got to stop talking and go out and do it. Let's do better. Let's get the defense off the field. It's embarrassing the numbers we've been putting up. So far, his body is writing a check that his mouth is trying to cash in. I mean, it's all working out. 1st and 10, a 19-yard pickup by LaFell. A little bootleg action. And Jefferson takes off. Down to the 12. And another first down on the pickup of 11.
They are on fire, Mark. You've seen all the weapons. You've seen the 2 receivers, Brandon LaFell and Terrence Tolliver. You've seen Charles Scott, but probably the biggest thing right now, Jordan Jefferson. Looks like he has a lot of confidence right now. I mean, he is letting it rip.
And off to Charles Scott, lowers his hat and brought down at the 11-yard line. Stopped up after a gain of about 1. And during the last couple of weeks after the Florida loss, you know, how do you think Les Miles has dealt with all the calls for maybe taking a look at Jarrett Lee, the backup quarterback?
I don't even think that's an issue. I think they are so high on Jordan Jefferson. They do not want revolving door quarterbacks like they had last year. They are sold on Jordan Jefferson. And so far in this game, Mark, we can see why Gary Croton and Les Miles are so high.
In 6 of his last 7. A predetermined run for Jefferson. Couldn't get to the edge, brought down to the 10-yard line, picked up 1. Antoine Carter making the stop on the play. It'll be 3rd down and long coming up for LSU.
Keep in mind, this is an LSU offense that's 91st in the country in scoring offense. Only scoring 23 points a game. They lost to Florida 13-3. They've played great defense. They haven't turned the football over. Mark, if they can continue this offense doing what they're doing now, they will be a factor in not only the SEC, but in the BCS championship. I really believe that.
Still with hopes of another national championship. Long way to go, though. 3rd and long. Jefferson. Pass is caught right near that first down marker by Tolliver. Let's see where they spot it. It appears to be a little bit short of the first down. And decision time now here, perhaps on 4th and short.
Mark, watch Jordan Jefferson stand in this pocket right here. He's going to get pretty good pressure right there by number 45, Antoine Carter. He stepped up and delivered that football to Tolliver.
They're going to go for it on 4th and short. Jefferson kept it himself. Let's see where they spot this. It's going to be close. It appears as if he got enough for the first down. According to where the officials are standing, yes, he got it. Jordan Jefferson at 19 years old, the youngest LSU quarterback to start a season opener in the last 25 years.
Yeah, only 11 for 17 against Florida for 96 yards. Hadn't had a touchdown pass in the last 2 games.
And Bob, his growth and development dating back to last year's Chick-fil-A Bowl when he was the MVP of that game.
And 21-0 as a starter down in Destrehan, Louisiana. Always wanted to go to LSU.
You lived in the area, you said. Where's Destrehan? You know where that is? You close? You need me to? I'll get our producers on it. I'm not sure.
No, I know Destrehan.
You went through there a few times? First and goal coming up. Working out of the shotgun now. Charles Scott beside him. Jefferson kept it. And nowhere to go. He's actually going to lose some yardage. The ball came loose, but he appeared to be stopped up first. I'm not sure that he got back even to the line of scrimmage that time.
Very interesting call right there. Very interesting. You have a 235-pound tailback in Charles Scott on 1st and 10 to jump in the shotgun and run a quarterback run with Jordan Jefferson, Mark. And it's an undersized Auburn defense. It's been on that field this whole game.
Right.
That was a very interesting call right there.
Second and goal. The ball back at the 3-yard line now.
I think you're going to see big 32 carry here, Mark.
Line up out of the offset eye. Good ball fake. Not everyone was buying, though. The fumble. Ball goes into the end zone. And Auburn has recovered it. An opportunity falls by the board. Zach Etheridge made the hit on the play, causing the ball to come loose.
Mark, that's shocking. Back-to-back plays right there. That was shocking to me. Les Miles, an old offensive line coach, carrying the football in the air. He switched it over to the proper arm, but he never tucked it away. Zach Etheridge came in, stripped that football out. Great effort by Craig Stevens. Mark, watch him hold the football out right there. But again, Jordan Jefferson carrying the football on back-to-back plays. 1st and goal at the 1.
Auburn ball coming back the other way.
Mark, you talk about the development of a young quarterback. See right there, that football is clearly out, but he switched the ball, and then it got stripped out. He didn't bring the ball tight to his body.
And Auburn with an opportunity now coming back the other way. Down 14-0. The Auburn Tigers trying to snap out of a 2-game losing streak. Losses to Arkansas and Kentucky in consecutive weeks have dropped them to 5-2. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie here under the lights in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. LSU leading 14-0. Ben Tate on the pitch. And a flag on the play. Tate pushed out of bounds just beyond the 25 by Kelvin Shepard. He got 6.
Mark, it could be a block in the back by Tommy Trott, number 5, out on the perimeter. Looks like Auburn signaling it's against LSU.
Personal foul on the defense. Number 11, hands to the face. That penalty is 15 yards from the end of the run. Automatic first down.
It's against Kelvin Shepard. See what happened.
Watch Kelvin Shepard come in. Yeah, they're going to call that again. Leading with that helmet, Mark, and the helmet down. If you look right at contact right there, he didn't have his face mask up.
That's one of the points of emphasis that the officials were going to clamp down on. They mentioned that to us in our meetings, Bob, at the start of the season, and they've enforced it.
Yeah, Mark, Kelvin Shepard did not have his eyes up and his face mask up. He dropped it down, hit with the top of the helmet.
There's Ben Tate, tripped up right around the line of scrimmage by Drake Nevis. No gain on the play. Let's go back to Wendy.
Mark, thanks. Oregon State, the underdogs at number 7 USC, but Oregon State has won 2 of its last 3 against the Trojans. Matt Barkley to Anthony McCoy, though, and it's the home team leading this one 7-0, 5 minutes to play in the first quarter.
All right, Wendy back here, 2nd and 10. On the handoff, on the reverse. It's Zachary with nowhere to go. Pushed out of bounds at the 34 by Shepard and Chad Jones. A loss of 7 on the play. Chad Jones, one of the leaders back there defensively for LSU, the two-sport star. Pitched in the College World Series recently for the LSU Tigers last summer. Third and 17. It's loose, and they're going to say it's whistled incomplete. Harry Coleman was there to bat it loose. Great pressure defensively by Harry Coleman, who's made a couple of key plays already in this game.
Mark, Coleman comes on the blitz from the wide side of the field. You're going to watch right at the top, number 24 just beats the offensive tackle, number 73, Lee Zimba.
Durston to punt, his third punt of the night. A low spiral line drive, and Trindon Holiday watches it bounce harmlessly at the 20-yard line. LSU, after a week off, using that loss against Florida, some pretty good motivation right now, leading 14-0.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Chick-fil-A. We didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich.
Welcome back, everyone, to the SEC on ESPN. A look inside the varsity. One of the great spots to watch an LSU football game if you don't get inside Tiger Stadium. Just a couple of blocks away.
Sound like Alice Cooper.
It's not even Halloween yet.
You ever been to Mardi Gras?
Never.
I'm going to tell you.
Felt like I have been every time I come and do a game here, though.
I mean, they have Mardi Gras all over. I'm talking Kenner, Metairie, all around Monday night, Tuesday night. It's not just a one-time deal now.
It's always a festive atmosphere around here, especially when the home team wins. Tolliver making a key play. It actually started in the Gulf Coast area. Actually, the home of Mardi Gras, Bob. A little education and trivia for you. Is actually Montgomery, Alabama. And you and I have been down there doing a bowl game.
Sure, it's not Mobile, Alabama.
It is Mobile. You're right. You're right. We were in the parade.
No, I'm your fact checker. I'm the fact checker, you know.
Tolliver with a 6th catch for a total of 63 yards. Russell Shepard in the ball game now, along with Jefferson at quarterback. On the last drive, LSU fumbled while they were within scoring range. A little bubble screen to LaFell. And JoJo makes it out to the 32-yard line. El Toro Freeman making the stop on the play. And the festivities never seem to stop in the Baton Rouge area. You know, there's so many people inside, some 92,000, but outside there seems to be just as many a lot of times. It's all about the game and sometimes a lot more. The school that has won a couple of national championships, most recently back in 2007.
You see Russell Shepard now, the last 2 plays, has been the tailback in kind of this pistol offense that LSU's in now.
2nd down and 9 coming up. Little option into the boundary. Jefferson with nowhere to go, lunging forward to the 33. And Wendy Nix, you ever done Mardi Gras? Back to you.
Mark Jones, I have not, I must say. But I have done the Red River rivalry, and Texas has never lost the week after under Mack Brown. They're on their way to keeping that streak intact. Fozzie Whitaker on the carry, Texas 14, Mizzou not on the board.
All right, Wendy. Jefferson, meanwhile, 9 of his last 10 passing. But, of course, had that costly fumble a few moments ago. 3rd and 7 coming up for LSU. Keelan Williams in the ball game. Jefferson held on to it and then finally threw it away, incomplete.
Mark, that's going to be intentional grounding. He didn't get outside the tackle box. But that series for LSU, I think, really puts into focus, do they do too many things?
Intentional grounding. Number 9 on the offense. That penalty is a loss of down at the spot of the foul. 4th down.
We've got a player shaking up down on the field, Bob, for Auburn. That's number 52, Antonio Coleman, actually their leader up front.
Yeah, you spoke about Mobile a minute ago. He's from Mobile. Actually played high school football with Jamarcus Russell. Jamarcus Russell tried to get him to come to LSU. It's been a frustrating season for him. You know, he's been playing with a cast on his wrist. First team All-SEC last year, fighting some injuries. It's been a tough year, but this kid has shown great leadership for this Auburn defense.
And taking on more of a leadership role for that Tiger defense. Back with more after this. Arguably Auburn's best defensive player right there, Antonio Coleman. Good sign, actually riding the bike now on the sidelines. He was taken off the field a few moments ago, shaken up. And speaking of injuries,
yeah, they're punting.
Helton, yeah, Derek Helton
pulled a muscle on that last punt. But right now, Mark, it's time for Gus Malzahn and this Auburn offense here with outstanding field position.
Cody Burns in a quarterback on 1st and 10. Burns on the pitch. That's Ontario McCaleb. Bob, that's a player that they had a lot of high expectations for at the beginning of the year, but some of the optimism has subsequently worn off. Why?
Mark, just a freshman, you know, a young guy out of Hargrave Military, went to high school in Fort Meade, Florida. He's about 165, 170 pounds. Burst on the scene with 386 yards in the first 5 games. Only has had 45 in the last 2. Just a little bit worn down right now.
Chris Todd back in the ball game at quarterback for Auburn, and a little motion and some flags up front. Yeah, back to McCaleb. Hold on a second. We'll get the call.
On the defense, number 77. Contact before the snap. 5 yards from the previous spot. 2nd down.
Gus Malzahn's offense, Bob, had both Ontario McCaleb and Ben Tate averaging over 100 yards rushing per game early in the season.
Well, Mark, it's unrealistic to keep having those kind of statistics. But as this season goes on, it's going to come down to execution. You're not going to surprise anybody anymore.
Here's a little Cody Burns execution. Nice run and tackled right at the 1st down marker. Looks like he got it at the 39. Jai Eugene making the tackle for LSU. Malzahn, the former offensive coordinator at Arkansas.
Well, Mark, what's happening now? Kentucky, Arkansas, LSU, they're playing base defense. They found out if you don't give up the big play to Auburn, Auburn has trouble consistently moving.
Todd, backside pressure, and it's loose. The Tigers recover it. Harry Coleman again. He is everywhere. Already in on 3 significant defensive plays on the young knight.
Well, you can see why John Chavis, the defensive coordinator, loves this guy. This time he's going to come from the backside. Here he comes right there. That's a great effort. You see him right here. Going to come around the horn. And Auburn very fortunate to get that football back.
Todd completes the pass to Ben Tate. And Tate is brought down at the 47-yard line by Barrett Riley. But back to Harry Coleman, number 24 for LSU. We talked about the position change from safety down to linebacker. We asked the defensive coordinator, John Chavis, about Coleman's reaction to it. He said once Coleman saw that he could be successful in that scheme and playing where he was playing, he didn't have a problem with it.
Well, he's the happiest guy in this stadium tonight, both John Chavis and Coleman. But the speed, Mark, of this LSU football team tonight, different category compared to the Auburn Tigers.
Incomplete after the hard hit by Chad Jones. Intended for Emory Blake.
And John Chavis told us yesterday, as we look at Gus Malzahn, Chad Jones is becoming not a good safety, but a great safety. Chad Jones at about 235 pounds. Watch him break on this football right here. Really, the football should have been caught right there by Emory Blake.
Had his hands on it. Instead, Durst in for another punt, his 4th of the night. And Jones watches it bounce out of bounds. You know the other good thing about Chad Jones? He throws a heck of a slider, Davey.
Let me tell you something. He's going to be tackling guys on Sundays. He's not going to be throwing that slider after another season or two.
He can get some cheese over the plate. We'll see that on the other side. Stick around. We'll be right back. Well, we talked about Chad Jones's athletic prowess. Look at that bender. Oh, just buckling the knees of the batters. This was the scene in the College World Series, Bob.
Yeah, but 235 pounds. Throw the fastball. You see Les Miles, what's he doing? Finessing. What is he, a knuckleball?
Hey, you got to change up
Throw the
speed.
heat, man. He's 235 pounds. Played baseball for Paul Maneri here at LSU, who won the national championship. One of the best guys, great guys in the country, Paul Maneri, the LSU baseball coach.
Outstanding program here. Russell Shepard takes the handoff from Jordan Jefferson. Let's check in with Wendy in the studio.
Mark, thank you. Again, we go to Florida and Mississippi State. You don't see this all that often. Tim Tebow picked off and off to the races.
Really a poor decision to throw that ball. Somebody was in his face, just kind of lofted it up towards the end zone, got tipped there, and he paid the ultimate price for that one.
They're at the half. It's 13-10.
All right, Wendy, the pass complete by Jefferson. Tolliver catching another ball, picking up 9 with 3:25 to go in the first half. Antonio Coleman, good news for Auburn, is back on the field, number 52.
Well, that's really good news, Mark. And LSU in a little bit of a hurry up right here. 2 timeouts left in the first half out of the empty formation right here.
Jordan Jefferson, the 19-year-old sophomore quarterback, looking very sharp tonight. A flag thrown in the backfield, and Jefferson tiptoes out of bounds at the 40-yard line. We're going to have a hold here against LSU. Josh Dorsett, 3-yard pickup as it stands. Well, 2 NFC East rivals clash this week on ESPN's Monday Night Football. McNabb and the Eagles taking on Clinton Portis and Washington. 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and it all starts with Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's at 7 o'clock Eastern.
I'll tell you what, in that game, the owner controls it all, don't they? They just take the play calling away from Jim Zorn, give it to Sherman Lewis, who is retired. But Jim Zorn's still the head football coach, but the owner just said, you know what, I want someone else calling the plays.
Well, that doesn't bode well for Jim Zorn's job security, you would think. Take a look at that number. Jordan Jefferson with 152 yards of total offense, outdoing Auburn by himself. Under 3 minutes to go in the first half. Deep drop by Jefferson. He was hit as he let it go, and it's incomplete, intended for Brandon LaFell, but good pressure up front by Michael Goggins.
Yeah, Michael Goggins beat the block of Charles Scott that time. Take a look at it right here. Goggins, the defensive end, comes right over the top of Charles Scott. And Charles Scott is a guy, Mark, who told us early in the season he's not in the business of going backwards. Well, I'll tell you what, Goggins took him backwards that time and ran right over the top of him.
Sets up a 2nd down and 20. Jefferson completes it, but tackled immediately as Charles Scott by Antonio Coleman.
And I'll tell you, there's a restlessness right now in Tiger Stadium because this LSU offense, Mark, is back out of sync like they've been all season. I would say that's restlessness.
Yeah.
Also, they're enjoying a little bite up there. But this LSU offense looks like it looked early in the season, not early in this game when they were clicking on all cylinders.
It's an offense that came in ranked last in the SEC, 112th in the country. Jefferson working out of the shotgun, 3rd and 21. And swarmed and sacked back at the 23-yard line. It'll be 4th and long. Sacks have been an issue with LSU of late. They gave up 5 against Florida 2 weeks ago in their defeat. A total of 11 in the last couple of weeks. And here's another one.
And how about Antonio Coleman back in the football game? Mark is going to get the sack. Again, this has been a problem because Jordan Jefferson hangs on to the football. But good to see Antonio Coleman back in the game. But wow, this LSU offense. And Mark, I get back to the storyline we started with. As talented as they are, what are they? And who have they established as their go-to guy? There's so many different weapons, but you don't see any of them on a consistent basis.
Well, Josh Jasper, the usual place kicker for LSU, now punting because of the prior injury to Derek Helton a few moments ago.
Boy, and if you're Auburn, you need a special teams play because your offense has 36 yards for the football game tonight.
Wow. Pierre Lewis back for the punt for the Auburn Tigers, and he bobbled it. It's loose. LSU recovers. Danny McCray downfield for LSU, wrestling for that ball still. And it's LSU football, so they catch a break at Auburn's 36. And now a flag on the play.
Wow, we said Auburn needed a special teams play. This isn't what I had in mind, Mark. Pierre Lewis, a redshirt freshman wide receiver.
The result of the play is the first down, LSU.
Wow.
LSU football at the 36-yard line with 1:42 to go and 2 of its timeouts remaining.
And anytime you're a new head football coach, what you want to see is progress, building on a solid foundation. You'll want to get better as the season goes on. This is Auburn's worst performance of the season. Just from a penalty standpoint, from a lack of execution standpoint, this will be reviewed right here.
And you know, Auburn, Bob, is a team that doesn't need any kind of negative vibes. When you look at the 2-game losing streak and then going back to last year when they lost 6 of their last 7, how does Gene Chizik now deal with the psyche of his team knowing what happened last year? Here's a look
Mark,
at the last
that's a
play.
great point. Let's take a look at this again right there. They're reviewing it. It looked to me like it did make contact with Pierre Lewis. McCray obviously recovered it. The only question is, did the ball make contact? And this should be a great shot of it right here. He signals fair catch.
Couldn't see it bounce in the maze of players that time. That kind of makes you question whether it did hit Pierre Lewis.
Well, which makes it inconclusive, and it was ruled a fumble on the field, so you'd have to think it will stand. But Mark, when you signal for fair catch, anytime you catch a punt, you have to get directly under the football. He kind of short-armed that a little bit. But Pierre Lewis, a redshirt freshman.
You would bet they're going to say this is inconclusive, that the ruling on the field would stand.
The ruling on the field stands. This is first down, LSU.
But Mark, you brought up a great point. Auburn lost 6 of their last 7 last year. Now keep in mind, Gene Chizik said it, 2009 is not 2008. But he does have his radar up for guys pointing fingers, guys showing bad body language, for it to start to unravel. Because that's what happened to him last year. Even though it was a different coaching staff, different issues. And right now, it's unraveling a little bit for Auburn.
1st and 10, LSU. Keelan Williams, and he was tripped up by himself at the 32. Let's go back to Wendy.
Mark, thank you. Coming up on the Outback Steakhouse halftime report, another milestone for Tim Tebow. The Crimson Tide roll on, and Todd McShay and Robert Smith join me with our Saturday Spotlight. We'll see you here at the half. Mark?
All right, Wendy. A 4-yard gain, 2nd down and 6 from the 32.
LSU with 2 timeouts. I'll tell you this, they're definitely taking their time. LSU is in no hurry right here.
See how the young quarterback Jefferson manages the clock here. Pulls it out on the side option, makes a great move down to the 22-yard line, and a 1st down for LSU. Under a minute to go. A missed tackle on the play by Josh Bynes. A 9-yard gain as a result.
You're right, Mark. Josh Bynes had him dead to right out there in the open field. And that's been another big problem for this Auburn football team. This Auburn defense is missed tackles.
They really like to load up and have the second guy, Bob, come in and clean things up. But when they're both missing, it's a problem, right? 1st and 10. Jefferson looking downfield. Hit as he let it go. It got to its intended target, but the bounce negated the completion. Antoine Carter with good pressure for Auburn. 26 seconds to go. It's 2nd and 10.
Mark, that was really a good effort. You said it, Antoine Carter right there. He actually started against Kentucky at defensive end because Jordan Jefferson took a shot. He had an open receiver. He just couldn't get the football there.
2nd and 10. Jefferson completes it to Tolliver, who's quickly becoming one of his favorite targets. Down to the 15. Picks up 8 yards. It'll be 3rd and about 2 with 18 seconds to go.
And Mark, here's where you question a little bit the clock management right here. With LSU being so deliberate, now they have themselves in a situation where it's potentially a running down, but they only have 1 timeout and 18 seconds left. So if they would have been a little bit earlier, quick tempo, you know, they've got themselves kind of backed in a corner right here with only 1 timeout and 18 seconds with the football on the 15-yard line.
You get a couple of plays here. Chance to maybe get one into the end zone. 3rd and 2 coming up. And if it is a field goal, that would bring up the situation and give them a 17-0 advantage. And celebrating its 5th year sponsoring the Good Hands Field Goals Nets, Allstate makes contributions to participating universities' general scholarship funds for each field goal and extra point kicked. To date, Allstate has contributed more than $1.9 million in scholarship monies.
Mark, it's 186 total yards for LSU and only 36 yards for this Auburn offense.
Still sputtering. And now Auburn is going to call a timeout. Now with just 1 remaining, like LSU.
See Ted Roof right there sporting those new glasses. But they've played with good effort tonight. This Auburn defense came into this football game under heat. You know, particularly had problems stopping the run late in the game against Kentucky. I think they've played pretty well tonight. They've had absolutely no help from the Auburn offense.
Bob, how do you reconcile having a high-tempo offense like Gus Malzahn runs as Auburn's offensive coordinator? Gene Chizik is a defensive-minded head coach. How do you bring it all together?
I think you bring up a very valid point. Gus Malzahn, when you hire Gus Malzahn, you're making a commitment to an up-tempo, very little time of possession offense. And on defense, you're going to struggle a little bit because you're going to be on that field a lot. And that doesn't really suit Auburn's personnel right now defensively because they are thin on defense. So it doesn't really fit. But moving forward, there's no question that Gus Malzahn and committing to that style of offense was the right system. They just have to get more players on defense.
On 3rd and 2, Jefferson. Incomplete. In and out of the arms of the intended receiver, Terrence Tolliver. That pass perhaps a little bit hot.
Yeah, Mark, this is an interesting decision. Les Miles is going to go ahead and take the field goal right now. I don't think he'll fake it, but you talk about a riverboat gambler now. Les Miles will roll the dice in these kicking situations.
Josh Jasper in to kick.
But one thing, Jarrett Lee sometimes is the holder, the backup quarterback. He's not the holder right now, so I don't think you can expect any unexpected things.
Never say never. A 32-yard attempt. And Josh Jasper knocks it through to make it 17-0 with 9 seconds to go in the first half. Welcome back, everyone, to the SEC on ESPN. Saturday night, Battle of Tigers, a couple of big cats, big felines on the field, and right now LSU leading 17-0 after that field goal by Josh Jasper a few moments ago. LSU coming in at 5-1 overall, 3-1 in conference play, still with hopes of playing in that SEC championship game. They got their eye perhaps on a game a couple of weeks from now at Alabama. Auburn, meanwhile, trying to snap out of a 2-game losing streak after starting the season 5-0. And Auburn pretty much playing for their hopes tonight of being in contention in the SEC West.
You really go back to that 5-0 start by Auburn. A lot of national attention, Mark. They made it up to the 17th ranked team in the country. On the verge right now of losing 3 straight SEC games. So critical right now at halftime to try to get something going if you're Gus Malzahn in this Auburn offense.
A pop-up kick comes down to the 30-yard line, fielded by Trott. Well, we talk about Tigers, Bob. Hey, the biggest cat on the field tonight, you know who that is, right? Big Mike. Mike number 6. Mike the Tiger.
I'm going to tell you, man, Mike's penthouse, the habitat that he lives in is unbelievable. I mean, I'm serious now.
It's a Ritz-Carlton for Tigers.
Oh, man, that's as good as you got it now. $3.7 million to build that facility for Mike the Tiger.
If he'd cut his nails, I'd move in with him. 1st and 10 for Auburn. On the give to Ben Tate. Ben Tate was the only semblance of offense that Auburn had a week ago, and a very anemic, weak, lifeless Auburn offense right now accounting for just 43 yards as they go into halftime. Gus Malzahn going to try and find a couple new buttons to press. 17-0 at the break. Let's go to the Outback Steakhouse halftime report and Wendy Nix.
Thank you so much, Mark.
LSU trying to make it 3 wins in a row against their rivals from Auburn. Welcome back to this presentation of the SEC on ESPN as we get ready for the start of the 3rd quarter. A daunting task ahead for the Auburn Tigers trying to come back. And this week, as part of Davy Jones' locker, well, you know what? Everything is always so festive around the state of Louisiana. In fact, the state hosts some 600 different festivals during the course of the year, bringing in millions of dollars to the local economy, Bob Davy. But when it comes to locally, Mardi Gras is all about Tiger Gras. Okay, these are yours. You can have these ones. I mean, it's got to be a very intimidating scene when you're an opponent coming in trying to take on a team like whoever is playing against your LSU.
You know what? It's one of the great places to play in college football. But what is different about it, they really do try to intimidate you here. And I'm talking about everybody in unison. From the time that bus pulls up before the game, one of the great scenes in all of college football. Then you look at this little locker room they put you in. You know, you got a bunch of guys crammed in there together, and then you leave that locker room and go into this vast stadium. But, you know, it's kind of the intimidation factor. But one thing I'll say about that, Mark, I think it can bring the best out in your football team, because it really is us against the world when you come down here and play them. So you eliminate all distractions. You eliminate all the petty things that happen sometimes with the football team, because if you don't, you won't survive. I remember 1997 we came down here. We were struggling in Notre Dame. My first game as a head coach, we came in here and played a game, did not have a penalty, did not have a turnover. I think the only time in the history of Notre Dame football. Because this place is so intimidating, it really focuses your football team. And I think it can bring out the best in an opponent, to be quite honest.
And the kickoff return, boy, all the way back into Auburn territory, Bob. I tell you, Auburn needs some of that unifying spirit that you had in '97 here with Notre Dame. Did you like my beats, by the way?
I do, Mark. Yeah.
You feeling that a little bit?
I like that little tiger deal you got going on there, too. But what happens, honestly and seriously, in this stadium, if it starts to get away from you, that's when this crowd can really be a factor. So, I mean, it's 17-0. It's been all LSU. They need right now to get a stop if you have any chance to win this football game.
Not to beat up the intimidation factor anymore, but what about that lure about the bus? They work that bus, the visiting bus, a little bit?
Man, they start that tiger bait stuff up as you come through the campus, the LSU fans. And it's really something, if you prepare your team right, they look forward to. I mean, it's truly a great atmosphere to play in.
Here's Charles Scott on 1st down and 10 inside the 45 down to the 44. Take a look at the numbers from the first half. Boy, that offense for Auburn, just a total of, well, not many. 80 yards passing last week. Not much more this week.
Yeah, Mark, I mean, Auburn with only 27 plays in the first half for 42 yards, only 10 yards in the second quarter. You know, you add in the turnovers, the penalties. I mean, Auburn's lucky they haven't been blown out of Tiger Stadium.
Jordan Jefferson looking downfield, finds his man. It's going to be caught, actually incomplete at the 28-yard line, intended for Brandon LaFell.
And if you're LSU and you're Les Miles at halftime, you're talking about we really have not played that well. I mean, we've had great opportunities. There's another example right there. Brandon LaFell, maybe the first player drafted in the NFL draft as a wide receiver, just had the ball bounce off his chest.
Sets up a 3rd down and 8. Empty formation for Jefferson. They started off this game clicking on all cylinders offensively. Caught. And a 1st down at the 18-yard line. That's Trindon Holiday, the fastest man in college football. Showing some good hands that time to pick up 25 yards.
Yeah, and again, Jordan Jefferson had great pressure from Antonio Coleman, the defensive end from Auburn. Watch right here, Mark. I mean, this is a courageous guy now. I mean, he steps up and throws that football. The ball's kind of underthrown. Holiday comes back to the football. Nico Thorpe again.
I know there are a couple of people in Florida arguing with the fact that I said the fastest man in college football, but nobody has run the 100 meters faster than him at 10 flat that plays college football. Jefferson into the end zone. Touchdown, LaFell.
Well, Brandon LaFell shows you why a lot of people say he'll be the first receiver drafted, Mark. He went up over top of Walter McFadden. Walter McFadden, a really good corner, been battling a knee injury he had against Arkansas, about 90%. But Brandon LaFell went up over top of him.
It's a 6th touchdown catch of the season, 20th of his career. The extra point good. It's 24-0. And LaFell, Bob, you mentioned his talent in the NFL relative to it. He actually declared for the draft last year, but changed his mind. A good thing for Jordan Jefferson on this play.
Yeah, I mean, that was poorly played by Walter McFadden right there. But, man, if they get this guy going right here, Mark, they get confidence in number 9 again. Alabama in 2 weeks. The winner of that game in the SEC championship, the possibilities and the potential unlimited for this LSU Tiger football team.
LSU at 5-1 coming in. Their lone loss so far this season against Florida. And Les Miles, the head coach, has told his team, remember that sting of defeat a couple of weeks ago and use it to narrow the gap between ourselves and Florida. Things certainly looking golden right now. Look at the Golden Girls, part of LSU football lore. That would qualify as festive. This whole scene inside Tiger Stadium. This is going to give Auburn some good field position.
Everything was going positive. The stadium's rocking.
That's buzzkill right there. That's how you take the air out of the balloon.
I mean, Josh didn't even come close to keeping that between the white lines.
He's got a friend in Brendan LaFell out there at least.
Well, he doesn't
before
have
the slow walk over to the coach.
Here comes the coach now. Yeah, there you go. A little comment.
Les Miles, very, very economical with his words, but I'm sure his message got across. Auburn starts off on its own 40-yard line. Time to see how they respond, how they deal with adversity. Ben Tate with a nice run up to the 45. He got 5. An all-SEC selection a season ago.
And this Auburn offense, I mean, well documented. 314 yards against Kentucky, the lowest of the season. The week before, 375 against Arkansas. Right now, they're sitting at about 50 yards total offense for this football game.
Second and 5 coming up. Little motion up front and a flag on the field. Bob, you talked about the lack of offensive production by Auburn the last couple of weeks. You talked earlier in the first half about teams playing base defense, and what kind of adjustment is that in layman's terms?
Well, if you look at the stats, Mark, I mean, this Auburn offense has had 6 plays over 60 yards this year. They didn't have a play last year, Auburn, over 60 for the entire season. Auburn was a big play offense early in the season. So they're doing all this window dressing, all these different motions up tempo. It still comes down to if you can eliminate the big play against them, they don't have many places to go. So if they don't have the big play, they become very average. So teams are sitting back, really just playing with 2 safeties deep and playing bend but don't break. I mean, all the trickeration's over by this point in the season. We're in the 7th game of the year. I mean,
a lot of film out there, huh?
Yeah, it comes down to players and execution now.
Bob, Auburn's longest play tonight is a mere 15 yards. 2nd and 1. Ben Tate again. Got the first down. Boy, Ben Tate running hard and authoritatively all the way down to the 42 of LSU.
And Mark, we keep talking about it. It's unrealistic. I mean, Auburn's 8th in the nation in total offense. But when you look at who they played, you know, they had 556 against Louisiana Tech, 589 Mississippi State, 560 Ball State. Now, they did have 459 against Tennessee, which is very impressive. But, man, they're in the meat of the SEC. You can forget about those 500-yard games now. I mean, it's just not happening in this league.
1st and 10 for Auburn. Ben Tate finds a nice crease off the left side of the offensive line, and Tate with another first down inside the 30 to the 28 where Chad Jones makes the stop, but Ben Tate got 14 yards.
You know what, schemes can change, Mark, from year to year, but the best players are still the best players, and Ben Tate is still Auburn's best player. I mean, that's a nimble move right there for a 235 or 240-pound back. You know, he had 903 yards in 07, 664 last year. So regardless of the scheme, he's still their guy.
Talented senior. On the toss, this is McCaleb, actually Fannin. And Fannin inside the 25 picked up 4. Well, as the chase hits the halfway point, Mark Martin and Jeff Gordon will look to close the gap on current points leader. Jimmy Johnson and NASCAR's best head to the shortest track on the circuit. The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup continues at Martinsville. Coverage begins at 1 Eastern on ABC, 10 a.m. Pacific, presented by Goodyear. Second and 6.
The crowd senses this no huddle, man. They're not only loud, they're smart, these crowds in the SEC. They know when they can be a factor.
Good savvy. Todd on a play fake. Has a man incomplete at the 7-yard line. Eric Smith. A 17-yard gain. It's going to be 1st and goal for the first time tonight for Auburn.
They come with the wheel route out of the backfield. Smith lined up, Mark, at running back. You're going to see him right there. Really good throw by Chris Todd.
From the 7. Ben Tate straight ahead. And Tate inside the 5. Got about 3 on the play. Had a chance to speak with Ben Tate's father last year. He is a devoted football fan, watching his son play. Actually, one game they ran out of rooms at the local hotel or motel. He actually slept in his car, told him, hey, I'm not missing this game.
Yeah, he's from Maryland, right?
Yeah.
Ben Tate went to high school in Maryland. Came on down south to play college football. He's had a great career.
Cody Burns in at quarterback now for Auburn. Burns keeps it. Broke 1 tackle, but not that second. Is tackled back at the 7 by Jacob Kutera. Ventrera with a nice stop for LSU. Lose a loss of 3 on the play.
You know, this LSU defense, Mark, we had them the first game of the year out in Seattle. They gave up 23. They've only given up 12.8 a game since that opening game in Seattle.
Wow. Todd back in. And it's incomplete at the 2-yard line, intended for Darvin Adams. Hey, Adams is a name that has been conspicuous by his silence tonight, as it's now 4th and goal. Adams is the team's leader in terms of actual receptions. And it's 4th down coming up.
Yeah, they are really thin at wide receiver. Auburn sets up a field goal opportunity right here.
They're going to spot it at the, well, just inside the 15-yard line. Wes Byram. 11-12 on the season. This one from 25. He puts Auburn on the scoreboard with 9:21 to go in the 3rd quarter. Coach Chiswick saying, well, guys, it's a start. We'll be right. Hey, you know what? Sometimes when it comes to the football game, Bob Davie, the MVP is Old Smoky. That's the barbecue. I mean, are those might be Brontosaurus burgers, man.
Yeah.
Those are some thick bad boys right there. You got to cook those slow, though. It's got to be a real slow, low fire, or else you burn the outside and the inside is raw.
You're getting in an area you don't know anything about, man.
You've changed on me going with this health diet, man. I barely know you anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Kickoff, a shallow one down to the 40-yard line. Kelvin Shepard, the linebacker, fields it. Wendy Nix, what's your favorite barbecue food, huh?
Mark, any barbecue I don't have to cook myself. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt and South Carolina, that's Stephen Garcia to Alshon Jeffrey, 43 yards in the touchdown, 14-10 South Carolina at Williams-Brice.
All right, well, you know, I was going to ask Wendy, you know, a little barbecue action for us, but I guess she's out. Well, we could cook for her, Bob.
Wendy went to Furman. I guess those Furman girls don't cook, right? You get a degree from Furman, you're not cooking.
You make reservations. This is Russell Shepard on the carry. Freeman making the stop. 9:05 to go in the 3rd quarter. Auburn finally getting the board on the last drive. That was a loss of 2 on the play. If you're just joining us, LSU came out firing on all cylinders offensively in the 1st quarter, jumping out to a very quick 14-0 lead. Second and 12. Jefferson incomplete, in and out of the arms of Russell Shepard, who should have caught that. And by the way, I think Wendy Nix went to Wofford. It was Wofford, yeah.
She did. And Furman's a rival.
Oh, so now you really got her mad at us.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Wendy, it was Bob. It wasn't me. No barbecue for Bob, and I'll cook for you and I, Wendy.
That's good memory for you about bringing up the Wofford. You're exactly right on that.
3rd down and 12 coming up. Jefferson working out of the shotgun. Slinging it downfield, has a man. And it's caught. What a grab by Ruben Randall, the freshman. A 31-yard pickup and no hesitancy on the part of Jordan Jefferson, Bob.
Well, they talk about the #1 recruit in the country at wide receiver. Again, he goes up over Walter McFadden. Ruben Randall, true freshman. Mark, he was a quarterback his senior year in high school, but as a junior had all kind of pass receiving yardage when he played wide receiver. There's some talent. There is some talent. That's an understatement on this football team.
This could be a pivotal and turning point, a good one for LSU offensively. Here's LaFell on the reverse and nowhere to go. Brought down, a loss on the play back at the 33. Antoine Carter making the stop for Auburn with under 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. A loss of 8 on the play. Bob, we might be seeing the maturation, the growing up right before our very eyes of Jordan Jefferson. Efficient tonight, not spectacular, but he's passed well. 17 of 25 for 211 yards and a couple of touchdown passes.
And something they've done, Mark, and Les Miles told us during the open date they would do it, throw the ball down the field. I mean, they've thrown the ball vertically and taken advantage of those big, tall receivers. You know, Richard Dixon set all kind of records as a tight end as a receiver here, but as a team, the height of these wide receivers, they're all tall for LSU.
Yeah.
You know, big, tall, good-looking receivers. You said it. I mean, Jordan Jefferson, as he matures through this year, this will be an explosive offense.
Remember last year LSU went through a juggling act with quarterbacks.
Covered up by the outside man. That penalty is 5 yards from the previous spot. Replay second down.
Penalty against LSU. Going to play this one over again. Jordan Jefferson, a young man who turned 19 just as the college football season began back at the end of August. Told me that he likes watching videotape of Donovan McNabb and Peyton Manning, and collegiately enjoys watching Sam Bradford, although Bradford looks like he's going to be on the shelf for quite some time to come.
Boy, that is a sad, sad story, isn't it? Sam Bradford coming back. How about Oklahoma? Taking the hits they have taken. Got a big win today, I believe, against Kansas.
We approach the midway point of the college football season. Good time to take inventory. Jefferson going up top and incomplete. Good coverage back there by Nico Thorpe, covering Terrence Tolliver.
Again,
well, and now it's
the ball down the field, Mark.
Yeah. Bob, let's see who's winging it. Brought to you by Pizza Hut Wing Street, and Jordan Jefferson, 18 of 27. Surely winging it. 220 yards, a couple of touchdown passes. And this is a young man that's used to winning. He won a state championship back in high school.
You know, the knock on Jordan Jefferson, still a little bit. He has a little bit of a wind-up in his release. You know, he doesn't get rid of it real quick. He kind of winds up. That's just going to be a process of evolution, you know.
Here's what he goes. Here's what he does. Tolliver in and out of his hands. It was jarred loose by Walter McFadden.
Yeah, you said it, Mark. That's a great play by Walter McFadden. If we can take a look at that again, he never looked back to the ball at all because he was beat. He just kept his concentration on the receiver and had one thing on his mind. That was stripping that football out of there. That was a great play of just playing the ball out of Tolliver's hands.
Well, McFadden right there, the so-called speaker box. He talks the most on the defense. His play did the talking here.
Yeah, Mark, this is a great play. Watch. He never thinks about making a play on the ball, just stripping the ball once Tolliver put his hands on it.
It was interesting that McFadden said a few weeks ago when they were sitting at 4-0 that I'm still not ready to buy stock in us yet, echoing the sentiments of his coach. And he might have had a little bit of foresight, knowing that they've stumbled since. A delay of game penalty against LSU.
But it's amazing. It was the same feeling we had out in Seattle watching LSU, Mark. And even though that was the first game of the year, you keep waiting for them to just totally explode, click on all cylinders. It's just like they have self-inflicted mistakes at times which set them back. You know, you keep waiting for the floodgates to just open, and as of yet they really haven't opened consistently.
Yeah. Team that remarkably, despite all that talent, last in the conference offensively. Jasper's punt. It's going to be down to inside the 10-yard line. They're going to spot it at about the 8. Good special teams work by the LSU Tigers on the 34-yard punt.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Dr. Pepper. Drink it slow. Doctor's orders.
Part of the games that happen here in and around Tiger Stadium. You know, they said during the Florida game a couple of weeks ago there were some 90,000 inside and some 90,000 outside the stadium. You don't always need a ticket to get in, bottom line. 6:46 to go in the third quarter. This is the worst starting field position of the night for Auburn. 1st and 10 from the 7. Tate straight ahead. It gets about 2. Auburn trying to snap out of that 2-game losing streak with 5-2 coming in after starting off the season 5-0. And that Gus Malzahn high-tempoed offense sputtering right now. Just 92 total yards on the night.
LSU showing blitz right here, Mark.
Todd completes it to Eric Smith. And Smith picks up 6. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie here at Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Here's what's happening now. Auburn's offense just 96 total yards on the night. LSU's offense, last in the conference coming in, starting to click. Coming up ahead, we take a little inventory with Coach Davie's midseason report card. And later, the Tigers' decade contributions, both Auburn and LSU. 2 of the more storied college football programs on the field tonight. Pass complete to Smith again, and Smith picks up the first down for Auburn. A pickup of 8. 1st and 10 with 5:15 to go now in the third quarter. Gene Chizik really big on being able to connect the dots with this program and get this team in touch with its history.
Watch right here. He's going to run to the flat, and Harry Coleman's going to get picked. Watch 24 right there. Gets picked a little bit by Terrell Zachary.
And back to the action. This Mario Fannin. And Fannin with a nice gain moves the chains again. Another first down after the 16-yard pickup. We talked about Chizik and him connecting the present with the past. He told us earlier, Bob, that he wants the players to understand how special this place is, meaning Auburn, while they're here and not afterwards. Having the players learn the school mantra. This is Fannin brought down at the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play. Good hit by Brandon Taylor.
Yeah, Mark, that was a terrific play by Brandon Taylor. He was getting a lot of playing time tonight. I mean, he just came in there and split the blockers. Yeah, we haven't heard much. I think they've stayed away from Peterson.
Yeah, we haven't said his name at all.
Yeah, Patrick Peterson, number 7. I mean,
a real quiet night for him. Cody Burns in the ball game and hands it off to Fannin. And Fannin picks up a first down for Auburn. Well, we haven't said Peterson's name much, but we have said Harry Coleman's name, Bob.
Yeah, Mark, he's had an outstanding game. I mean, John Chavis loved those undersized linebackers at Tennessee. And that's why he made the move. Coleman from strong safety to outside linebacker, kind of a hybrid defensive back linebacker, and John Chavis has taken advantage of his speed. Excellent blitzer.
What a job John Chavis has done as defensive coordinator. He spent 20 years at Tennessee, 15 as the team's defensive coordinator, now getting a view from the other side. This is Ben Tate. And Tate with a nice gain. Picked up 7 on the play. But John Chavis, one of those high-profile coordinators, and a very good one.
Yeah, a good matchup between Gus Malzahn, who comes to Auburn, has total control over the offense, high-profile hire. John Chavis comes from Tennessee, so it's coordinator against coordinator. The head coach is kind of out of the mix in this deal.
Right now, advantage Chavis. Nowhere to go this time for Ben Tate. Let's go back to Wofford's Wendy Nix.
That's right, Mark. You do have a good memory. A quick look at what's going on around our family of networks on ABC. Texas up big over Missouri. On ESPN, Florida and Mississippi State locked in a battle. And on ESPNU, South Carolina leading by 4 over Vandy.
All right, Wendy, and back here, looking at a 3rd and 4 for Auburn. They have to stay on the field offensively. Down 24-3. Incomplete, no flag on the play. And it's 4th down coming up. Terrell Zachary, the intended receiver.
Jai Eugene, excellent coverage down the field. Kind of an interesting call right there, Mark. You said it. Auburn needed to stay on the field. I really thought it would be 4-down territory if they gained any yardage on 3rd down. But the incompletion right there turns it into a punting situation for Auburn. I thought they would have run the ball right there on 3rd down and about 4.
Durst with the punt. Not a great one. Not even good. They're going to spot that way up around the 26-yard line. Right back after this. Welcome back, everyone, to college football, the SEC on ESPN. LSU leading Auburn 24-3. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie. 1st down and 10. Jefferson completes the pass to Tolliver, who's having a career night reception-wise. Makes it out about the 32-yard line. Pushed out of bounds by Nico Thorpe. Picked up 7 on the play. They've been waiting for Jordan Jefferson to bust out a little bit.
Yeah, Mark, you can see how important they consider his development, because there's a temptation when it's 24-3. Auburn with absolutely no offense to just hammer it if you're LSU and wind the clock. They've thrown the ball consistently here in the 2nd half. A big part of that, I think, is to get where they want to get late in the season. They know Jordan Jefferson's going to have to throw the football.
Russell Shepard, this is the promise that they talked about. It's the speed they talked about. Touchdown, LSU.
Well, we said early, maybe they were forcing it a little bit to Russell Shepard, trying to get him touches. Mark, I think they just showed us why they're trying to get him touches. He is fast. Now, he went untouched. He got some great blocking, but he is legitimately fast now.
69 yards in a bolt. It's 31-3. They define speed as rapid acceleration.
Hey, Mark, that's track speed, because he didn't get touched. It was like coming out of the starting blocks.
That's Usain Bolt speed right there. Welcome back, everyone, to the place they affectionately call Death Valley. Tiger Stadium, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Watch this bolt.
Mark, he's going to get a great block right here by the left guard, Will Blackwell. Watch right here. He comes off kind of a zone blocking scheme, and he just creased it, and now it's over. That was excellent blocking up front. I mean, he went untouched. The center, T-Bob Hebert, you know that name.
Yes.
And the left guard, Will Blackwell.
T-Bob Hebert, the son of Bobby Hebert, former member of the New Orleans Saints.
Auburn continues to give up the big run. Randall Cobb last week in the 2nd half went 60 on him.
There's DeMond Washington. Here's Damon Washington up to the 32. Let's go back to Wendy. Wendy?
Mark, another check on the #1 team in the country. Florida and Mississippi State. It's been close all night. It was a 3-point game here. Chris Rainey changes that when he punches it in from 8 yards out, but Florida has just tacked on another, so they lead 28-13.
All right, thanks a lot, Wendy. 1:02 to go here in the third quarter. And the forlorn look on the faces of the Tigers kind of tells the story of the type of night that it's been. Chris Todd on the option to Ben Tate with nowhere to go. Brought down by Kelvin Shepard. And Bob, if you're the head coach, how do you guard against having that here we go again mentality?
Well, we go back to the conference call we had with Gene Chizik when he said 2009 is not 2008. When they became divided as a team, he said, but I do have my radar, I do have my antenna up, looking for some of those signs of body language, finger pointing going on in the sidelines. Right now, if they're going to crack, it'll be now because they are getting cracked.
Yeah, Todd brought down. Chris Todd tackled back at the 19-yard line by Drake Nevis. And boy, the look on the faces even more telling after that last play.
Yeah,
for those that actually saw it.
It is that here we go again look. And that'll be the most important coaching Gene Chizik has, because this football team went through a lot last year. They experienced it. Even though it's a new coaching staff, it's the same players, Mark.
It's third in New Orleans to go when we come back for the start of the fourth quarter. As they say here in Cajun country, Baton Rouge, laissez les bon temps rouler. Let the good times roll. They're feeling that vibe right now. It's all good for LSU, all bad on the other side. They do let the good times roll here at Tiger Stadium, especially when the home crew is winning 31-3 as we get ready for the start of the fourth quarter. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie. And a night that has been a coming out evening of sorts for the LSU offense. Its defense has always taken care of business. Ben Tate on the run and chopped down at the 22-yard line. A pickup of 3 on the play. And Ben Tate getting up slowly. Well, 2 NFC East rivals clashing this week on ESPN's Monday Night Football. Philadelphia against Washington. It's going to be Donovan McNabb against Clinton Portis and his crew. It all starts ESPN's Monday Night Football, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Eastern time. You get a look at it all with Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's. 6th punt of the night for Durst. Wow. And Trenton Holiday will have no shot at getting this one, which is mostly a good idea. Back to Wendy Nix.
Mark, we told you it was 28-13. They've since kicked the extra point. We'll show you how it happened. Florida and Mississippi State. Tyson Lee picked off by Dustin Doe, but watch him closely.
Boy, you just hate seeing college players showboat like that. Bad call.
All right, Wendy, and Florida winning some style points, perhaps, in light of the fact that Alabama barely got by Tennessee. Style points sometimes subconsciously make a difference. LSU winning some style points with their offensive showing here tonight. We talked about the BCS standings. Florida #1, Alabama #2, Texas leading Missouri big time right now.
Yeah, Iowa trailing Michigan State. TCU jumping on BYU. TCU may move up and pass the Boise State Broncos. Cincinnati with another big win, but tell you what, LSU sitting there, Mark, at #9.
The good thing for Les Miles's crew is that they control their own destiny as far as whether they can make it to the SEC championship game and subsequently perhaps an BCS national championship. That pass complete to Chris Mitchell. And we're going to get to our midterm report card. We hit the midway point of the season here in college football.
And I think the exciting thing about LSU, they're starting to peak a little bit. I mean, I think every one of these players would tell you their best football is still ahead of them. Can you say that about Florida and Alabama? You know, is there much room for improvement on those two teams? Maybe there is, but I promise you LSU potentially can play either one of those teams as we go later in this season and have a legitimate chance to win.
Later in the season, Bob, we see more plays like this one by Jordan Jefferson connecting with D'Angelo Peterson. And in honor of Dennis Green, they are who we thought they were, right? Florida, Alabama.
I think that's fair to say. Yeah, and the only one is, you know, Boise State. We saw them early. Once they beat Oregon in that first game in which we had, I think everybody anticipated they would be undefeated. It's just, what do you do with them? You know, what do you do if LSU continues to win and has one loss? They're going to pass Boise. What do you do with TCU that puts on a show out there tonight in Provo? Do they pass Boise? So, you know, I think everybody after the Oregon game said Boise's going to be undefeated. I just don't know where they end up in all this.
And here's Jordan Jefferson on the move, sliding in safely at the 36-yard line. Picked up about 7. Getting back to that midterm report card, what about the surprises, Bob? Teams that have been over and above what we thought.
Yeah, Mark, I think Cincinnati definitely. I might strike a little bit of Iowa if they go down to Michigan State tonight. But Cincinnati, definitely. The job Brian Kelly has done is just remarkable.
2nd and 3. Jefferson throwing a strike to Trindon Holiday. Holiday, no longer a track guy, although maybe he is in name only. Got more football mentality. And there's the score at the bottom of your screen. Michigan State leading Iowa 13-9. But for all intents and purposes, we'll keep Iowa up on that screen as one of the teams that have been over and above what we thought. And there's one part of the equation to go in our mid-season report card, and we'll get to the disappointments in just a bit. Just a few seconds left, by the way, in that Michigan State game. Just 2 seconds to go. Handoff is to Trindon Holiday, who picks up 5.
But you know, Mark, I look at the big picture of it. You have the 3 teams that we know. Florida, Alabama, Texas. No question about those 3. Next for me is LSU and USC. Both with 1 loss, but both obviously the potential to win out. Right. Those are the next 2. I know Cincinnati has a case. I know TCU has a case. You know, Boise if they keep winning. But, man, LSU and USC, pretty strong.
Yes. USC.
And Oregon. You know, Oregon's still sneaking around.
Hey, if you're going to lose, right, lose early and make that rise back up. Charles Scott. And Scott makes it to the 24. Well, you know what, Bob? I think Iowa just pulled one out of the bag.
I'm back on the bandwagon.
You're back?
Get my old list out of Iowa and Cincinnati. That is something else, huh?
It has been a season of miracles for Iowa. You think back to that first game of the season, right? The 2 blocked field goals,
against
right?
Northern Iowa?
Yeah. 3rd down and 5 coming up for LSU as they invariably march it down the field. Boy, what offensive problems were they talking about, huh? 9:33 to go.
Auburn's showing blitz right here, Mark. Here they come.
Ooh, and they get to Jefferson. Took his hat off, too. Sacked back at the 35 by El Toro Freeman.
And this is the guy Auburn's been waiting on. El Toro Freeman, the outside linebacker, Mark. He comes unblocked. But they have been waiting on this guy to become a player for them.
And Jefferson a little slow to get up.
A little bit dazed looking right there, but El Toro Freeman, a junior college linebacker, they say has a terrific motor.
Now, Bob, we're going to take one more look at this, and then I'm going to ask you a question. He got rocked by Freeman. And with 9:25 to go, this is something we saw earlier this year with Tim Tebow getting hurt against Kentucky, the concussion. At what point do you start thinking about taking him out of the game?
Right now. No, you know what, Mark? 9:25 left in the fourth quarter. I was actually just thinking about that scenario. 31-3, obviously the game well in hand, but keep in mind he has struggled a little bit as late. You know the point. Just like with Tebow at Kentucky, Florida was struggling in the passing game. So you want to leave feeling good about it. You want to get as much development as you can. But it's a question that begs to be asked. When is enough of enough?
He's proven himself tonight. 21 of 31 passing for 242 yards and a couple of touchdown passes. And now they're going to attempt a field goal. This one coming from 52 yards out. Josh Jasper. He's got the aim. And he dings it off the crossbar, and it bounces the wrong way after that.
His long is 52. 1 inch. That was 52. 3 inches at attempt.
One more look. A few moments ago, El Toro Freeman of Auburn coming in and nailing Jordan Jefferson right there. He was slow to get up. Apparently a little bit dazed. Lost his helmet on the play. And during the break, during the commercial, they were attending to him on the sidelines.
Again, a great opportunity, Mark, late in the football game, the game in hand, to work on that passing game, continue to get Jordan Jefferson good reps.
Handoff to Tate, meanwhile, and Tate finds a seam over the right side, tackled at the 41. The question begs, getting back to Jefferson, do you bring him back in or not?
No, you don't bring him back in. He's done for the night. Mark, I think it's done, but I don't think you can question him being in there on that last series. I mean, obviously, anytime if a starting quarterback gets hurt in a 31-3 game, just on the surface, you look at it and say, man, why is he in there? But if you look inside the facts and where this football team wants to go, I can understand totally why he was in the game.
Gotcha. Todd in the game at quarterback for Auburn. It's been a rough night for him, as it has been for the entire offense. Ben Tate earning all of 1 yard on that carry.
In the direction of Auburn, you know, the coaching job that Gene Chizik has right now, not only keeping this Auburn football team positive based on what's ahead, but the Auburn faithful, the Auburn community, because, you know, all the talk about his record at Iowa State kind of went away when they were 5-0. But you know, when you go 3-5 and lose your last three, particularly how they lost here tonight, that starts resurfacing. So it's going to be a negative week. He has to manage that just like he managed 5-0.
Cody Burns in at quarterback, and Burns is going to run it. Tackled at the 46. As we take a look at the remaining schedule for the Auburn Tigers. Ole Miss next week. Furman, which should work out well for them, and then a tough one at Georgia.
It's all about getting to 6, Mark. You know, 6-6, you have the opportunity to go to a bowl game. Obviously, Furman, they're going to be favored in that. But more than that, you know, all of a sudden the offense right now has lost confidence. I mean, they've been stoned tonight by LSU, really. I mean, the only thing they have consistent is Ben Tate, which they had last year. They had Ben Tate consistent. Really no passing game to speak of right now.
Little blitz pressure. Todd got nailed, but he got it off in time to Ontario McCaleb, who was pushed out of bounds. Defensively, LSU has been really bottling up that offense.
And we have to talk about the improvement, Mark, of the LSU defense over last year. You know, last year they had the co-coordinators. That didn't work out very well at all. They bring in one voice, one personality, one system in John Chavis, and he has done an outstanding job getting this defense to play up to their potential.
John Chavis getting a view from the other side after 20 years at Tennessee, 15 as their defensive coordinator. Todd downfield, actually comes underneath And they're going to say that it's incomplete as we check in with Wendy.
Mark, thank you very much. We check in on Iowa. 2 seconds to play in this one. Iowa trailing 13-9, but Ricky Stanzi to Martin McNutt, and Iowa wins this one 15-13. They're now 8-0 for the first time in school history. Mark?
Wendy, it harkens back to the days of little Freddie Russell and that crew that had a great year. Brad Banks at quarterback.
But how about winning in East Lansing on the final play of the game? What do you do with Iowa? I mean, where does Iowa fit into all this? I mean, 0 style points, but undefeated.
We talked about the teams that pretty much what we thought they were. Some disappointments. We'll finish off our midterm report card when we come back.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Responsibility. What's your policy?
And welcome back to the SEC on ESPN under the lights at Tiger Stadium. I'm Mark Jones along with Bob Davie. But this guy looks like he just lost his girlfriend. His dog ran away from home and he failed his midterm, and his football team is getting hammered.
You got it. And he's thinking about that drive home.
5 hours.
Was it all worth it? Was this worth it?
We better hope he's not driving home looking like that.
He's riding home, which is just as bad. Look out, Harry Coleman.
Boy, a rough ride. And a blitz as Chris Todd gets decked by Ryan Baker. He was the first one to get there. As this Auburn Tiger offense continues to struggle.
Boy, Chris Todd, 3 games in a row. I mean, he's had no help tonight, let's be honest. But a kid that had a tough year last year, Chris Todd, I mean, had shoulder surgery in December. Fans booed him. He's having a tough 3-game stretch right here.
Talked about how perceptions and views can change. You wonder how long before people start calling for Cody Burns to be the quarterback. Holiday watches it bounce as he's supposed to. And this one's going to come out to the 20-yard line. Check that.
Yeah,
Zach going to mark it at the 2.
Zach Etheridge doing some fancy stepping, trying to keep that in play. Yeah,
that's using your feet. Well, you get a good picture of the good and the bad tonight. LSU leading 31-3. They're obviously the good. Fans singing "Living on a Prayer," and there's the not so good end of it. Auburn fans got a new quarterback in, Jarrett Lee, now for LSU. Comes out slinging, and it's incomplete. Let's go back to Wendy in the studio.
Thank you very much. Oregon State at number 7 USC. The Trojans in control right here, 21-16. Then there's more where that came from. Alan Bradford puts it in. And USC is in pretty prime position here with 3.5 minutes left to go in the 3rd quarter.
All right, Wendy and Bob, you mentioned it. USC sitting there with an interesting scenario out there on the Pac-10 side of the equation.
How about going to Eugene next week to play Oregon? I think SC's lost 3 straight years in the state of Oregon, something like that. That'll be a big test up in Eugene.
Scott with 3 yards. Well, let's get back to the midterm review and report, Bob. What about the teams that were less than we thought they were?
Well, Oklahoma's had just a tough season with the devastating injuries. Ohio State did get a big win today against Minnesota. Ole Miss, a big win against Arkansas. But think back to where these 3 teams were picked. I mean, Ole Miss was picked as high as number 2 or 3 in the country.
Yeah, they were the sexy pick at the time.
They really
real trendy.
Were. They really were.
Jarrett Lee in a quarterback started 8 games last year, starved for a little bit of playing time, getting some burn.
One thing that really helps LSU, Jarrett Lee's a good quarterback. I mean, having a good backup quarterback I mean, he's not your usual backup quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, this kid can be a big-time player.
Well, Bob, as the chase hits the halfway point, Mark Martin and Jeff Gordon will look to close the gap on current points leader Jimmy Johnson as NASCAR's best head to the shortest track on the circuit. The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup continues at Martinsville. Coverage begins on ABC at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific, presented by Goodyear. And Jimmy Johnson, the leader. Mark Martin, Jeff Gordon, Stewart, and Busch trailing in his wake.
Heading back to our roots next week.
Yes, sir.
Back in that Big Ten country doing the noon ESPN game. Purdue Boilermakers at the Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, on the banks of Lake Mendota and Lake Monona.
Halloween in Madison.
And that's a new little twist too for us, huh?
Yeah.
Halloween's these guys came ready for Halloween this week. 3rd down and 7. Lee out of the end zone, slings it complete to LaFell, and JoJo with a 1st down. Hey Bob, Halloween, if you could go to a Halloween party, wear a mask of one coach, who would it be? Who would the one coach you'd dress up as for Halloween? College football.
I'm not good at that stuff.
Come on, man.
You put me on the spot. I got no. It would probably have to be Joe Paterno.
Hey, all right. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Big Ten country?
Yeah, it's a distinct looking guy. I mean, you could pull it off, right?
Right.
I mean, you go in there as
There's no mistaking,
different guys. I mean, they're not going to know who you are.
Yeah. The glasses would have to be part of the costume, right?
Exactly.
It's a guy like that. 1st down and 10.
Yeah, how about you, Mark?
I'd go as Urban Meyer. I want to be number 1. I'm not even going to front.
I'm going to tell you what, well, we've taken some grief now. Hey, how many times have we heard the Obama-Biden thing?
We could pull that.
You and I.
We could pull that off.
I just don't think you look that much like Biden. I'll be
honest. We could do our best. Yeah. I hope we're not sounding too, immodest in saying that, but yeah, I'd take a shot at doing the Obama-Biden ticket. We're past the election.
That's
but
a little bit
coming up on a year.
It's a little insulting to me. People take for granted who they think I look like out of those two.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the elderly guy.
Or is it because you got a good basketball game too?
Maybe that's it.
They think you're the president.
Maybe that's it. But I'll tell you what, Mark, you have to love where LSU sits right now.
Right.
I really think you see now the potential in this football team coming out at the right time. I mean, they are right now starting to peak. Next week they're going to win. I forget who they have, a non-conference team that they should handily beat. Then they play Tulane next week, which is a rivalry game, but they're going to be huge favorites. Then they go to Alabama. They get another chance like they had here against Florida 2 weeks ago to have just a marquee game that can vault them back into the national picture big time.
A lot of people, Bob, who support this LSU program harken back to a couple of years ago as Trindon Holiday takes the handoff. Harken back to a couple of years ago when they lost to Kentucky midway through the season, and after that loss, the offense really took off on their way to a national championship. This is what the remainder of their schedule looks like. As you mentioned, Tulane, then the pivotal one at Alabama.
I mean, that really sets up well, doesn't it? You have Tulane before the huge Alabama game. You get Louisiana Tech before the Ole Miss game. And you have Arkansas at home. I mean, that sets up about perfect for them. It all comes down to how they execute and can they live up to their potential.
When you look at the BCS standings, punt coming here, should they run the table, they'd build up enough of a strength of schedule element that would vault them right into the national championship.
Legitimate argument, Mark.
Obama and Biden, huh? Well, two NFC East rivals clash on the field this week. Donovan McNabb and Philadelphia taking on Clinton Portis and Washington. On ESPN's Monday Night Football at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, coverage begins with Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's at 7 o'clock Eastern. And the quarterback in the ball game, Neil Caudle, hands it off to Fannin. Well, what does Auburn do from here?
Yeah, Mark, I mean, They have 135 yards total offense in this football game. Last week was their lowest of the year, 315 against Kentucky. They've just been overwhelmed by the speed of LSU.
It's been a coming out party for the LSU Tigers offensively tonight. That's the indelible image of this evening. This is Fannin again. Nice run for the first down. Well, Bob, we talked about surprises, disappointments, teams who we pretty much thought they would be what they are. And what about the question marks?
Yeah. I think this is big time list right here. You know, USC struggling tonight with Oregon State in the Coliseum. LSU, Oregon, obviously the winner of the USC-Oregon game next week, and LSU are my two teams in prime position with the talent to possibly still make a run at the national championship.
That was Fannin on the run.
What happened to your Miami Hurricanes today?
Boy, they got beaten. Clemson in overtime. They had some great opportunities defensively, a little bit soft in the secondary.
Yeah, you knew that really helped the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets
in the ACC,
because they were even with Miami, because Miami was ahead of them because they beat them head to head.
Yeah, they had the
Georgia
tiebreak.
Tech in clear position now in what, the coastal division of that ACC.
And Georgia Tech defeated Virginia Tech last week. This pass complete to Emory Blake, who makes it down inside the 20-yard line to the 17. This is where the college football season gets very interesting. Check out the standings in the SEC's Western Division. LSU, we're going to give them the win and improve them to 4-1, 6-1 overall. Alabama squeezing barely by Tennessee earlier today. Cottle incomplete. And what about Alabama and Florida, Bob? We're starting to see some of their warts, some of their imperfections a little bit as this LSU team, in contrast, starts to rise some.
Well, you're navigating through that SEC, Mark, and there's so much familiarity. You know, they play each other every year, you know, so it just gets so tough to blow anyone out. And the pressure mounts. You know, don't think for a second there's not a lot of pressure on Florida and Alabama to be perfect.
Cottle completes the pass. You know, Houston Nutt incomplete. Houston Nutt, head coach of Mississippi, was quoted in a national publication earlier this week talking about the difficulty of playing in the SEC. He looked at one of the team on another conference, and another conference said, man, I wish I could play teams like them more often.
Yeah. But he's saying that now because he's in this conference.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. And it's good to see Cottle right here getting playing time for Auburn late in this football game. Throws the ball pretty well.
Buying himself a little bit of time. Completes the pass. Down to the 1-yard line is the backup tight end, Philip Lutzenkirchen. 8 seconds to go.
These are always interesting situations right here for coaches, you know.
Yeah, chance to end the night on a positive note.
Yeah, do you use the timeout? I think you do, man. You play it out and try to score. You're going to get booed by the people here in the stadium, but you know what? Give your guys a chance to score right here, man. The amount of practice guys do to play in these games. First defense coming back in for LSU.
Look at that.
Now's when you get second guessed.
It's on now.
If you're John Chavis or Les Miles and you put those starters back in there right now, Mark, and one of them gets hurt, you may never live it down.
This is where the machismo all comes out.
It's on right now. I mean, look at the LSU players on that field.
You'd never know it's 31-3, right? With 8 seconds to go.
You don't think it's not personal. I mean, Auburn calls timeout. Les Miles says, you know what? You want to keep it going? We're going to put our starting defense back in that game. It's pretty good stuff for a 31-3 game, right?
Yes, sir.
No Ben Tate in the game.
Neil Cottle out of the shotgun.
Half the distance to the goal now.
That was Charles Alexander.
You know what? That's a good penalty down there. You
Why
know,
is that?
Well, because it's only half the distance to the goal on the defense. Take the chance of forcing a bad snap right there. All you lose is an inch anyhow on defense.
Offside. Defense number 91. half the distance to the goal.
Now, the bigger, if Auburn runs it, doesn't score, do they call timeout again? Yeah, they try to get one more
They got
play.
one left, yeah. The proverbial teaching moment.
It's good stuff right here, Mark. Good stuff. Listen to this crowd, huh?
For those that decided to stay, a good moment.
Look.
Look at Levington over there, amped up.
Oh, we're going to throw it.
Connell.
Oh,
Touchdown, Lutzenkirchen. They score it. A chance to flex their muscles a little bit.
He would love to say something right there. Look at the smirk.
You know that's going to be the first question in the postgame news conference.
And they threw it. You know, it wasn't like he got everybody stirred up and tried to run it. They threw it on him.
Philip Lutzenkirchen with the touchdown reception.
Yeah, Mark, why not go for two now?
Hey, don't stop now.
If you're Gene Chizik, if you're going to score, go for two, finish it out.
Hey, we're still riled up with 3 seconds to go, huh? 31-10. Chance to
Mark,
flex
here it is. I give Gene Chizik credit for going for it, throwing it, doing all you can, man. I mean, play it out till the end. They're going to do the same thing to you. Now, probably would have gone for two, right?
Yeah.
If it's that important to score, then go for two. It's another teaching opportunity to let Cottle make a play.
Yeah, get them all while you're there. You said it, though, Bob. You know, some people say, why do you do that kind of stuff? Well, Neil Cottle, Lutzenkirchen, guys like that, they practice all week, just like everyone else, just like the starters on the team. This is their moment. It's sometimes unfair to deny them of an opportunity to play at full speed and to do what they're supposed to do.
You're exactly right, Mark. That's what it is.
3 seconds to go. LSU can improve to...
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Mark.
What do we call that one?
Wow. Oh, he has no idea he's on national television. He just got a little bit, what is it, YouTube? I promise you that is going to be somewhere tomorrow. My man is oblivious. This guy right here, there he finally got his attention.
He's dancing to his own beat.
Look.
Yeah, what do we go for an onside kick here, Bob? We're still going for teaching moments.
I think you probably do. LSU thinks it's going to be onside kick.
Yeah, a whole bunch of guys.
I think they're going to go ahead and kick this dude, Mark. I think enough's enough. We've had enough teaching and learning experience
for the last 9 seconds.
Yeah, let's kick it out of here.
They squib it down to the 28. Oh, you were thinking I was Trendon Holiday perhaps going to lateral. What's his handshake going to be like?
Oh, it'll be.
I'm sure they understand each other, where they're coming from. Les Miles and Gene Chizik. Chizik's team dropping its 3rd consecutive game. And for Les Miles, boy, his team really showed what they're made of offensively in a breakout moment, a breakout game for the LSU Tigers. They win it 31-10. Getting over the 300-yard mark offensively. ESPN 2 College Football Scoreboard is up next. And here, a post-game extra. There's been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Bob Davie, I'm Mark Jones. Now let's send it to Todd, Robert, and Wendy back in Bristol.